Investing at a young age is something that's extremely important. Stay tuned as Jay and I dig into something that no high school in America is teaching your kids.
Hi, welcome to T Minus Retirement, the podcast where we help launch your retirement into orbit. I'm Jay Cole.
And I'm Dustin Watts.
Like Dustin mentioned, today's video is going to focus more so on the younger generation getting prepared to save, to invest, and how that's not really being taught at schools or even just at homes, just with families. And we think it's a very important thing for younger generations just to learn that and to get a jump start in their future for both saving and also just investing.
You know, Jake, what kind of sparked this is I had a friend that wanted me to speak to their group of high school seniors about this concept, and after the discussion was over, he reached out to me and really expressed how much his students got out of me talking with them and sharing these concepts, and it kind of got me thinking. We really needed to do a video on this just so that more of this information can get out there, because really the whole idea and the discussion that I had with this particular group of high school seniors is how important it is to start saving as young as you can. I mean, that's the gist of it. The younger that you are, the less that you really have to save to hit some of those milestones later in life. It's a lot harder for you to, turn 50 and then start saving for your retirement. You can start saving, when you get your first job, and saving very small amounts of money. And if you invest that, all that compounding and growth over all those extra years really, is to your benefit. And I told this story of, waking up in the morning, needing, that little bit of caffeine to hit you. And, so you stop by Starbucks and you get that cup of coffee. And I know you're the same, Jay, but I drink black coffee, so it's not too expensive, but it's a $3 type of cup of coffee. And what does that $3, how much did that really cost me? Because if I was to, let's say, have coffee at home, or, take that $3 and count that towards my savings for the future, obviously the compounding of that $3 is exponential. So for a high school senior, let's just say you're 17 years old, you're spending that $3 on a Monster or a cup of coffee, what have you. Maybe it's a little bit more than $3. That $3 it actually cost you $357. And the reason for that is that $3 that could be invested and compounded until, age 65 or later, you're basically consuming it now. And my whole point was, it's okay. Of course, we have living expenses, and you got to have some fun in life. And it's not to say that you shouldn't, have that Monster, that cup of coffee, but just realize what those expenses at such a young age are really costing you later in life. And I pulled up a chart here. I didn't put this chart together, but it's a really good resource. There's a podcast on YouTube. You can check it out. It's the Money Guy Show. Two guys that have put this together, and it's really really smart. But essentially what it shows you here is how much $1 is at your different ages. So 17 years old, that $1 is actually it can be $119.12 at age 65 if you keep that invested. So that's where I'm coming up with. We have $3 cup of coffee. The wealth multiplier there is 119. So do some quick math, you get to 357. But really the point is, the younger that you are, the bigger the wealth multiplier. So you need less dollars invested to reach your goals if you start younger. So again, I'm 35. My wealth multiplier is 12. So if I didn't save $1 and I just started at 35, I need to save a lot more in dollar terms to reach the same goal, as opposed to if I were 17 and started investing, earlier. You need less dollars because you have more time for that money to grow, compound, get dividends, get all that market growth. And I posed the question to the class, how many of them wanted to be millionaires? Of course, every hand goes up, right? Everybody, especially when you're 17, you want to be a millionaire. And honestly, who knows what $1 million will be when these 17-year-olds are 65? But for illustration purposes, I posed that question and I had them kind of guess how much do they need to be saving per month if they want to get to $1 million. And of course, I've kind of given it away here, but the kids really thought that, oh, you have to save $1,000 a month and just these big figures. And when I showed them this chart here, that if you're 17, you only have to save $71 a month to become a millionaire by 65, or $141 if you want to have $2 million. And, you can do some easy math to kind of extrapolate that out depending on what you want to be at. I mean, the kids were shocked, honestly. And I thought that was really powerful because it's the first time that they saw numbers and kind of got the concept of like, hey, I can sacrifice, can I, or I should be sacrificing, $70, $80 a month. You get your first job. While it might be a big number to you at the time, in the grand scheme of things, you almost always can kind of scrounge up some type of excess that you could put towards savings. And of course we talked about different accounts to save it in and all sorts of things, but at a high level, the concept that I think is really getting kind of brushed under the rug is the earlier that you start saving, the better. And here's the numbers, here's the proof. It's not a lot of money that you have to be putting towards a savings, retirement savings, if you start young. And that's the whole point that I wanted to drive home.
Yeah, it's really good just to see actual numbers like this, because I'm sure parents or maybe people much older will tell younger people, oh, you need to save, and it's like kind of brush them off thinking, yeah, whatever, I'm going to live my life. But seeing actual numbers like this, it simplifies it, number one, but it also shows, going back to the 17-year-old, it's just $71 a month, and I've got some type of part-time job, and that's my real goal of wanting to hit $1 million. Then I'm going to do whatever I can just to meet that goal every month. And you might have to make, like you said, you might have to make some sacrifices early on, but then by the time you get a full-time job or you start your career, that $71 a month, I mean, I'm sure you'll be saving more, but that initial $71 a month would be nothing. Because you're making more.
Not at all. And that's the whole point, is like, if you can just get in that habit, you don't want to be here at 50 having to save $3,155 a month to get to that same amount. That's difficult.
Hard. Yeah, especially when you have a mortgage and you probably still have kids you're taking care of and just all these other expenses that are coming at you. That's very hard to maintain that savings rate. And people can do that, don't get me wrong, but it's just the sacrifice at the tail end is much greater than having to sacrifice early on.
And it was really cool to see, Jay. These kids, they're 17 and they were interested in the stock market, and they had a lot of really good questions about just personal finance. And so it did give me a glimpse of hope that, they're certainly, I think, more than I was at 17. They're interested in this stuff, and they see it and they want to do better than maybe previous generations. I mean, one kid in the class, he had his own stock account already. Yeah. And I thought that was really cool. He came up to me after, he was talking about, this and that, and just getting some tips and things. And I don't ever remember kids when I was 17 doing that, albeit it's easier now, of course, with things like Robinhood and just apps. I mean, that wasn't around, when we were 17, but So I think that this generation has a really good opportunity to really do better than some of the previous generations, at least of saving. And if they know up front, like, hey, this is what I need to do, I think a lot of them will do it.
Yeah.
And I think, that's kind of what we're trying to showcase here.
Yeah. And I think it's important for parents and family too to encourage that.
Yeah. Well, I know we wanted to talk too about some of the things that even the administration's trying to put forth to help encourage this as well. This is really there's of course the new Trump account that is for minors. This is a totally brand new concept. It literally just launched this week, so we wanted to bring it to the viewers here so that you know a little bit more about it. But ultimately, it ties in with this concept. If you can start saving, at when you're 1 year old or just born, I mean, to get to $1 million at 1 year old, you only have to save $14 a month. So this is kind of going into that theme.
Yeah, let me share my screen. So yeah, those new Trump accounts. So starting this year, anyone with a child under 18 can open up a Trump account. And there's a couple other caveats too, but we'll go into that in a second. But they can open these accounts for their kids, for each individual kid. They'll have their own separate account. And you can contribute a certain amount to it each year. And the cap, it's $5,000 a year that you can contribute to it. And it doesn't just have to be you. It could be grandparents, could be family, friends, could be whoever. But essentially, you can put $5,000 a year into these accounts. And once the child turns 18, the account becomes theirs. And when it becomes theirs, it's treated like a traditional IRA. So everything's all pre-tax.
Right.
So, they wouldn't necessarily want to cash it out right away because they'd be paying taxes on that. But it's really jump-starting their retirement savings. And so then even if they don't do anything with it, if you start it when they're born and by the time they're 18, it's probably going to be a pretty big amount. And the best part too is you can have it invested.
Right.
So it's not just you're putting money into like a savings account and it's just stagnant. You're able to have it invested into the market and participate in the market growth as well.
And they've made the investment part of it easy, which I think is important because not everybody is going to know what stocks to pick. You, from my understanding, you can't pick stocks. It has to go into a low-cost mutual fund or exchange-traded fund that's going to invest in the broad market, which is perfect. That's all people need to do, for your kid. That's great.
Yeah, it's probably going to be similar to 529 plans.
Right.
You just have like a set amount of investments. But for the next 4 years, or I guess for the next 4 years, so if you have a child born from 2025 till the end of 2028, when you enroll them in this account, you can elect to have the government give seed money of $1,000.
Yeah. Well, and go back to that. So $1,000, the wealth multiplier on at age 0 is $647.47.
Wow.
So that $1,000, let's say they never touched it, which probably not likely, but imagine what that $1,000 that's free to you, essentially free to your child. Imagine what that would be at 65 or even at 18. It's going to be a powerful thing that gives at least these kids a jump start. Unfortunately, I know my son just missed it. He was born in 2024, so he won't be getting the $1,000, but that's
get the account open at least.
So how do they open up the account?
I was just about to say that. Yeah, so they're going to be creating a website. I guess July 5th, so right after our country's 250th birthday, and that's where you can be able to create it from there. But when you create it, they're going to have you fill out a form. And there's two ways of doing this. So this is an IRS form 4547. This is where you just input the information, the kid's information. You can do 2 at a time per form. If they qualify for the $1,000, so they were born from 25 to 28, you can check that, and then they'll seed that. So you can submit this form now when you're filing your tax return. So whoever you see for your taxes, or if you do it yourself, this is an actual form here that you can have whoever prepare it and submit it with your return. And once that whole account, or once that website opens up in July, that's going to get linked up with that, and your information should be on here, like your email address and phone number. I'm sure they'll reach out to let you know the account's open, and this is how you can view it and pick the investments. So that's how you can do it now. Or you can still fill out this form, and then once the website is open, you just submit that form online through that website.
Okay.
So
Well,
either way, you're having to use that form to open it up.
doesn't sound too hard, and I'm sure as the years go on, they'll kind of streamline it different ways, possibly
I'm sure so. Yeah.
possibly through custodians that you already have investments at and whatnot. But it's at least a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
I think if we can just get younger people investing earlier, honestly, it's better for the whole country when you think about it. I mean, it's getting kids, a head start right off the bat. It's getting money invested in the markets. That's, that's more money in the markets that kind of buys up shares that ultimately raise the price of some of the stocks, that are in these funds. So if you own retirement accounts, that kind of helps you too, in a sense, if you think about it that way. But I think it's at least a step in the right direction, and I don't think anybody can fault them for that. So
Yeah, it's great too, because I've had a lot of clients over the years ask if they can open like a IRA for their 3-year-old. And how it works with IRAs is you have to have the kid themselves have to have wages
right.
to be able to contribute to that. So this is kind of a good workaround where you can get this account open and fund it, and then by the time they're 18, it becomes their own IRA.
Right. And it's not like a 529 plan where you have to use for, it's for college. This is more of a general type of account, the way I understand it. With some stipulations, of course, because you're not paying taxes along the way. You're going to pay tax when you take it out. But, that could be a great start for a car. That could be a great, maybe some seed money for a small business that a kid wants to open, all sorts of things, a house down payment. So, if you can start that now, and maybe the grandparents throw a couple bucks in there and the parents throw a couple bucks in there along the years, I mean, that can really be beneficial to your child. So
yeah, I agree.
Great. Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, again, if you have any questions on this, feel free to reach out to us, but we hope you found this information helpful. We look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care.